the co-founder and CEO of Glammatic.com. And what we do is bring cutting edge software to the top salons and spas to help them grow their clientele, get new customers, get new talent, and to do that with as little effort as possible. That is our goal. That's our mission. And as you can imagine, with that as our goal, AI is an incredible technology for us to use to help automate a lot of the most important and difficult processes within a salon. So I'm going to talk about today how to think about AI, how to bring some of that into your business, and how we do that for salons as well. But before doing that, I want to share a little bit of background on myself and how we got started in this company. So I grew up in a pretty small town in Georgia. And in this town, there was a very small restaurant called India Chef. It's the only Indian restaurant in our town. And my uncle ran it. He's very passionate. This is the one thing he knew how to do. His goal was to bring financial security to his family and build this generational business. But what I saw was this guy working 12-hour days for 20 years, doing more or less the same thing, right? He spent some time updating the menus, at one point upgraded to a bigger location. But for the most part, the business was operated the same. So I went to college and studied computer science and business and built a different company. And at that point, I knew there was a better way. And so I met my co-founder, Nick, who's also in this audience, and we created a company called Fisherman. And the purpose of this business was to help restaurant owners, like my uncle, spend a lot less time working on the minutia and the marketing, the operations to bring customers to the door because it was a fight every single day. And instead do the things that he was incredible at and that he loved doing, which was talking to customers and building relationships and working in the kitchen. And so we started this business to help. And our thesis was at the time, less than 50% of restaurants in America, 2019, 2020, had a website. And we knew that the majority of consumer traffic when people are looking for a business is online. We had a handful of customers. We had this early product. We had very little money. We had no idea what to do. We also had nothing to lose. So we said, why don't we lean into our mission here? And we made our product completely free for any restaurant for 6 months. And the response was overwhelming when we reached out to our network. Over the next couple of years, we worked with thousands of restaurants to help them transition to the digital age and transition to online ordering, to web. And, not only did we help all these restaurants survive the pandemic, but we also actually helped these restaurant owners transition the way they live their lives, from working these 12-hour days over and over again to being able to have time back for their families and doing the things that they loved. And so, after Fisherman, we were spending some time going to different industry events. I spent a lot of time going to events like TBA and the Forest Summit and salon-centric events. And two things happened. One, I fell in love, as everyone else here has too. This is an incredible space. Not with a romantic partner, with all of you. I also fell in love around the same time. But that was one thing. And then the second is that it became very clear that all of the expertise and the technology that we had built, this is a place that we can do a lot of help. And so we decided to launch Glammatic after, going to all these different industry events and, meeting people like Daniel Mason-Jones, who was just up here. Thank you so much for the kind words about working with us. It's been amazing working with you, and Tom Kuhn from Unity, and Gordon Miller, who we'll hear from tomorrow. And we decided to go all in on this industry and launch Glammatic. And the mission is very, very similar, right? We want to help these businesses succeed in this modern era and to do so with as little effort as possible. And we're working proudly now, fast forward a couple of years, with about 20 Prefer members and about 400 total salons, some of the best salons in the country. And our average salon that signed up with us last year has doubled web traffic and bookings. Now, we think we're just at the beginning of what's possible because of AI. And so I want to talk about artificial intelligence and really how to think about it. I actually want to take a step back and ask, what is it? Because I think a lot of us are using it maybe. A lot of us have heard about it a lot, but maybe don't have a proper understanding of how it works. And I want to give a somewhat simplistic explanation of it as a foundation for then what we'll talk about, which is how do we use this super effectively. I think of AI personally as this sort of brain inside a computer. So we ask ourselves, well, how do our brains work? Like, how are we thinking? The first step is interpretation. There's all this signal, there's all this stuff happening in the world. And the first thing that needs to happen is we need to make sense of it all, right? And so the first thing our brain does is make sense of all of this information and noise that's happening outside. Second thing it does is it stores that information as memory. We create these ideas and information and knowledge that we can then pull from to take action. This execution stage is where we're actually doing things with the information that we have, that we've made sense of the world with. And then from there, inevitably, we try things, we fail, and we learn. And once we learn, we update the information in our brain, the memory. We update the way that we interpret signals from the outside world, and we update the way that we execute tasks. It's beautiful, right? This is the way that we are constantly improving, and it is one of the most magical things that exists in life. And this is what AI can do, right? Computers historically for decades have been able to do the memory component and the execution component, right? It stores information, it's able to execute tasks. You can say, look up a website and find that website. It can look for a photo, right? It can find that photo for you, can store a photo. But what AI brings is the stuff on the left side of this chart. It's able to interpret information better than any computer has been able to do before. You can provide, natural language. If you've ever used ChatGPT, it's incredible how well it can actually understand what you have to say, even if you're kind of saying gibberish. And then the last thing that it does is this learning piece, better than anything before, without giving explicit instruction the way we've always had to. It'll actually learn on its own so that the next time around it can do a better job, just like us. And that is incredible. So now the question is, if these are two new technologies that have never existed before that are extraordinary, what can we do with those technologies to improve the way our businesses are run? And so, after this incredible feedback, when we ask ourselves this question for salons, there's a few things that come to mind, some categories of concepts. One of these categories is repetitive tasks, specifically when language is involved. A lot of you have probably responded to a Google review before, mostly either 5-star reviews or the 1-star reviews. And it's kind of a tough, annoying process, and it's repetitive. The reason you can't automate it historically is because each review is different. This is a really good use case for AI because it can do that interpretation. Another one is anything that requires speed or consistency. From a brand perspective, all of you are running incredible brands. You care about the consistency and how your brand is being reflected and represented online. The consistency is really difficult if you don't have AI, but with AI, you can make sure that your brand has a consistent message every single time and that it's happening quickly. You get a phone call and it's a missed call maybe because your front desk is busy or the salon is closed. You can have an automated response that knows who the person is that was calling and in a smart way actually handle that communication and hopefully generate a book. And then lastly, proactive outreach. There is so much that can be done simply by working outbound, but usually you're so inundated with stuff that you have to deal with inbound, you don't even have time to think about what you can do proactively. Incredible use case for AI. If it understands your business and your goals, it can start to do things for you. We can get more tangible in just a second, but I want to ask, what do all these things have in common? To me, when I see this, there is actually a theme, and that theme is customer interactions. There was a presentation earlier today that was incredible about all the things that we should not lean into AI for, especially within the salon. I completely agree. I think inside the salon, we should be using our human touch more than ever before. It's an amazing way to build relationships where most industries don't even have that chance. But everything outside of the salon, and trust me, there is a lot going on outside of the salon that actually matters to get people in there. That's where we should be automating things. That's where we should be using AI. And so let's ask ourselves, what are all of these customer interactions that exist that we can then automate, right? Let's reverse engineer it. The first is the website. Over 70% of new clients find out about a salon from Google and from the website. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of potential new customers. Most of those are coming from the phone, or it's about over 50% of new clients are coming from the phone on Google and your website. So the content you have in your website represents your brand. It's really important. The chats that are happening online are extremely important. Your online booking experience, about 25 to 30% of that website traffic converts to online bookings. Calls are happening every day. Maybe you're texting your clients as well. There's a lot of interaction that's taking place there. Social media, of course, is yet another place, again, outside of the salon that people are interacting with you. Email, and then lastly, the Google profile. So all of this are ways that people are interacting with you. Would you agree that these are all very important? Right, extremely important. And would you also agree that you don't really have time to handle all of this stuff yourself? It's very difficult to do. And because of that, right? Like maybe who's doing it today? If you could clone yourself and you could be doing all these things, that would be incredible. But instead, maybe it's you that's handling the website. Your front desk is handling the online bookings and the phone and the SMS. Maybe it's your stylist, one of your stylists that is doing the social media. Maybe a freelancer is handling the email, and then maybe nobody's doing the Google business, right? And wouldn't it be nice in this new era with AI to actually set up a bot to do each of these things? And that is what's possible. I think this is the way, regardless of how you go about doing it, this is what you should be thinking about, is how can you set up automations to handle all of these things for you? And you can. But what would be even better than having a separate brain to do each of these functions is actually a single brain that can do all of these functions. You can train one that knows everything about your salon, your services, your team members, your branding, right? And then also connect to all of the channels where people are communicating with you and do the communication for you. This is what we're building at Glammatic. We've built essentially an AI version of each of your salons, not all of your yet. If you're working with us, yes, we have. And slowly get access to your channels. We take on your website. We rebuild that from scratch on our platform. Take over your phone system. We take over your Instagram. And then we start to build this knowledge base, right? And then with that knowledge base, we can now control and help access all of the communication throughout your salon. And all of that goes through you, through an app. It's just mobile. You don't have a desktop thing. It's just on a phone. You get a task, and that task is pre-drafted what we would do for you, automated. You can simply click approve or reject. And that is the feedback loop. That's that learning cycle for us based on what we do for your salon. And if you want, at any point, you can set any of these channels on autopilot. So you actually never have to touch a thing. And this is the future, right? This is the future of how every industry is going to work. And it's already happening in this industry. And we're building this right now. And our goal is to work with as many people in this room as possible to make that happen. The 20 or so Prefer members that we're working with today are helping us craft this future. We've built the majority of this already. And before the end of the year, we'll have executed fully this vision of having this single brain that can do this for you, where you finally do get to clone yourself. You can spend a little more time on the beach, maybe, than doing all of these different things or forgetting to do all of these different things. And so that is what we'd love to invite you to join us. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about how this might work for you in your salon, at the very least, we'd love to just go deep with you, get your feedback on what we're building. And when we do this, right, we'll figure out what are your gaps right now. And we can always start with just one thing. But over time, the goal is actually to execute this full vision with you and hopefully get your feedback on how to fine tune the way this is working, because you guys are the best of the best. And if we can figure this out together, then the rest of the world is going to benefit as well.